Those are the top stories in this news edition. Hello, welcome to ETV News. With the news, I'm Shamal Islamma. President Sahle-Work Zewde of Ethiopia held a telephone discussion with President Sauli Niinisito of Finland. The presidents had an extensive conversation on the latest development and the humanitarian situation in the Tigray regional state. They also exchanged views on the stability of the Horn of Africa as a whole. The presidents shared their concerns about global problems, particularly the coronavirus pandemic and climate change. In addition, the presidents noted the need to continue bilateral cooperation between Ethiopia and Finland. Stakeholders said Ethiopia's resources in the lowland areas remain to be untapped due to lack of knowledge and economic shortcomings. Addis Work panelists overviewed new agriculture policy development that encompasses pastoralists and potential resources of lowland areas.
Addis Work, a forum which is organized by the Office of Prime Minister, discusses on various crucial issues for nation building and policy input. Private and government stakeholders took part in the forum titled Lowland Areas Pastoralist Development Journey. The lowland areas account for 60% of the country's land areas and 14% of the total population. Reflected on the panel, there is a gap the way some media state pastoralists, said the panelist.
I think it does not represent pastoralists who always follow the tail of the cattle. They look for resource. Unless the government supports pastoralists to lead their livelihood sustainably, only resettling the farmer does not help the community. The people may be resettled, but the cattle needs mobility.
Hania also mentioned that the nation's agriculture policy has some limitation to include pastoralists.
The nation policy lacks inclusiveness to address pastoralists. Some investment activity took place in a few irrigation available areas, but it's not satisfactory and centered pastoralist. If the government wants to ensure sustainable development, the pastoralist community should be included.
On the other hand, Somali Region Water and Irrigation Bureau head said more than 95% of Ethiopian livestock and meat export are from pastoral areas. According to him, works that has been done to ensure economic beneficiary of the pastoralists have some gaps.
The life of the pastoralist is depending on the livestock. Pastoralists cannot survive without cattle. The policy says let resettle the pastoralists are done to improve their livelihood. Instead of stating how much their life improved, reporting a score of resettled pastoralists was disclosed as a success.
እንደ ሰክሰስ ሲቆጠር የነበረው ምን ያህል ነው የሰፈረው ምን ያህል ነው በመንደር ያሰባሰብነው አይነት ነው እንጂ ይሄ የሰፈረው ምን ያደረገ ነው የሚል ጥያቄ ነበር።
The Ministry of Agriculture for its part said it has planned to work taking into account the previous problems in the lowland areas.
ቀደም ሲል የነበሩት ጥረቶች
The previous system had a problem to ensure the pastoralists' way of life, since large private and governmental farming investment activities could not ensure pastoralists' life. We will revise program taking in considering the previous problem to ensure beneficiaries of pastoralists.
Lowland area is endowed with lots of water resources, but it is not utilized properly due to lack of knowledge and economic challenges, said Ministry of Agriculture. Research-based investment in lowland area has a nationwide advantage, it was learned.
Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Demeke Mekonnen met with his Austrian counterpart Alexander Schallenberg. MOFA spokesperson Dina Mufti said Austrian foreign minister's visit to Ethiopia heralds the increasing cooperation of the two nations, particularly in the investment sector.
The Austrian foreign minister also expressed his commitment towards strengthening Ethiopia-Austrian relationship and his commitment towards upgrading the cooperation between the two countries.
Dina confirmed Austria's firm stance to bolster ties with Ethiopia in various development issues.
Of trade, for example, and other areas as well. It was a very productive and wonderful discussion that has taken place.
Austrian Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg accentuated that Ethiopia is an important strategic country that plays a key role in the region. Meanwhile, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister Demeke Mekonnen discussed with Ambassador of China to Ethiopia Zhao Zhiyuan on various issues. Foreign Affairs Ministry stated that the two have held fruitful discussion on some principal issues, including COVID-19 prevention activities, development in Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, and the recent trends in Tigray region. A consultation meeting of legitimate political parties operating in the south region of Ethiopia has been held in Hawassa. During the meeting, it was stated that the political parties should work hard to create a peaceful competition based on ideology so that the sixth national election will open a new chapter for democracy. Emmanuel Jorge presents the details.
A joint council of South region's political parties represents 12 legally recognized national and regional political parties operating in the South region. Members of the joint council discussed the draft document of ethical codes, guiding principles and ground rules of their works which they work together in the coming time. The committee who prepared the draft clarified and answered the questions raised by the participants of the meeting.
We believe that the establishment of this council lays a big foundation. Rather than going off with local issues to the National Political Parties Council in Addis Ababa, even if donal council are going to be established by near future, it enables to get response without any delay. The work is there down on the ground, meaning in locality, district and in zonal level. Does the region really give training of this document to the zonal representatives? To prevent such problems, I gave the official letter on which the Prime Minister has to put his signature on it to my zone where I live. Let you see this. We are accountable if there is any problem in our activity. You also need to understand that you have a responsibility to respect it.
The reform will be tested and or will prosper. What will be tested is the commitment mentioned before a while on part of the government and our commitment to work within accordance of the constitution and other laws. If we both do so, the reform will be prosper.
The meeting calls all political parties to play their role by ensuring peace, to let the public choose in freedom who to vote, and to let the political parties campaign without restrictions.
It has been made clear in the document that we give priority for ensuring the rule of law. I believe that this is so decisive. When we go to the implementation, all stakes should play their role, because we cannot leave this issue only for the government.
Representing the region's Prosperity Party, head of political ideology divisions Ntayo Walde Mikhael said They are working on multiple reform activities to let opposition parties compete in equality.
Except we created a true democratic system, we cannot achieve our goal to lead this country in a holistic prosperity journey. Prosperity has started the reform keeping this in mind. We, the Prosperity Party, gave equivalent focus to making the election just and peaceful as we focused to win the election.
Agreeing on creating awareness up to grassroots level about the ground rules, meeting of the council is concluded by approving 2 agendas.
Inclusive, relevant and high-quality education will foster Africa-centered science and innovation, unleashing the untapped potential of young Africa. Ethiopian candidate for AU Commissioner of Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, Professor Hirut Waldemariam, made the remark in an exclusive interview with ETV English. The professor, who has multidisciplinary expertise in the areas, contends that to create Pan-African scientists and technocrats, Africa should focus on indigenous knowledge rather than copying from remote countries. Shifa Olaga has interviewed the professor and has filed the following report.
Some call her the fearless woman still on the rise, Professor Hirut Waldemariam. The former Science and Higher Education Minister has worked in various top government positions, including 3 ministerial portfolios before being the social advisor to the Prime Minister, with also ministerial rank. She has also received various awards and recognitions, especially for her contributions to the education sector. Ethiopian candidate for AU Commissioner of Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, Professor Hirut Waldemariam says there is no greater calling than working for the beloved continent of Africa for the sake of its advancement and global influence.
So my vision is to unleash African minds, to unleash the potential of African youth through quality education training and science and technology, so that they can contribute to the advancement of the continent. I mean, that's our right. I mean, it's our time for Africa. But unless we, ensure that we are having quality education system, and Africa-relevant technology and innovation, then forget it, we can't change.
Access to relevant, high-quality, indigenous and inclusive education, but shored up by the latest technology and innovation, is her motto. And if selected, she will champion for this.
Well, my number 1 priority is to ensure access to education for all. I mean, we have it written in the document, but it hasn't yet been realized. So I really want to find a way to supply access to education for all African children and kids. And the other one is to improve quality of education, and to ensure relevance of education and training in Africa. And the other key priority I have is to ensure revitalization of African universities and schools. They have to be revitalized, and the ecosystem of education, science, technology, and innovation should involve all stakeholders in such a way that they have to, African universities and African schools need to reform themselves.
She also contends that there are few people working at the AU, and this is in the face of the fact that Ethiopia is the founding member and seat of the African Union.
Ethiopia is a founding member of African Union, and Ethiopia is hosting African Union here in Addis, but we have never been, taking up a top leadership position in the African Union. So I think there is also a question of fairness. I think we need to take part. We need to involve in the leadership of this prestigious and very useful, important institution, African Union. And I'm looking forward. I'm very much excited, and I'm very much enthusiastic to work at the continental level using my rich experience in the portfolio.
With all the necessary qualities, educational background and expertise to support her race for the candidacy, Professor Hirut contends that harmonization of educational accreditation system will help ensure standardized education throughout the continent. This will also go along with her determination to work for the realization of Agenda 2063, which she argues will only be realized by unleashing the homegrown knowledge of the youth through the expansion of technology tailored to meet the needs of Africans.
This year's celebration is equally warm and appealing as last year's. It's very exciting to be here. It's peaceful here and a wonderful holiday.
It is my time to celebrate Epiphany here. I'm so happy, and I would like to say Happy Epiphany to all.
This festival, time to time, is being liked by tourists who come here from across the world. It's so exciting that you wouldn't want to miss it for the world.
Epiphany ceremony of Christ celebrated throughout the world. The unique part in Ethiopia is we adore it, venerate Ark of the Covenant. This is one. The second one is there is a thing throughout the world. That is, this is the water who deprived me not to baptize. This is said by an Ethiopian eunuch during the time of Christ's ascension. The composer of this song is an Ethiopian eunuch, Bacchus. This is another peculiar thing for Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
Ambassador Plenipotentiary and Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Ethiopia to Sudan, Yibeltal Amro, underscored the need for Ethiopia and Sudan to resolve their differences on the boundary peacefully as per the bilateral agreements and joint boundary mechanisms put in place to handle the matter. Shifa Olago presents the following story.
At a briefing session organized by the Sudanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs and National Borders Commission for Diplomatic Missions, Consulates and International Organizations accredited to Sudan, Ambassador Yibeltal particularly emphasized the significance of the exchange of notes made between the foreign ministers of the two countries on July 18, 1972. That provides for amicable solution to the problem arising from settlement and cultivation north of Mount Dagalish. He further stated that, as per the 1972 exchange of notes, prior to the redemarcation of the Guin line north of Mount Dagalish, the Joint Special Committee should submit to the Joint Ministerial Commission a report containing an amicable solution to the problem arising from settlement and cultivation. Although the ambassador indicated the Joint Special Committee convened 8 rounds of meetings to carry out the task of proposing an amicable solution, it has not yet finalized its mandate. Ambassador Yibeltal further stated that while the work of the Joint Special Committee was still in progress, and when the Ethiopian National Defense Forces moved to the Tigray region on November 4, 2020 for law enforcement operation, the Sudanese army, taking advantage of the internal situation in Ethiopia, entered inside Ethiopian territory and looted property, burned civilian camps, killed and attacked Ethiopians while displacing thousands in flagrant violation of the 1972 exchange of notes. The ambassador added, contrary to the spirit of friendship and cooperation existing between the two sisterly countries, the Sudanese army took and controlled vacated Ethiopian military camps. He also underscored that Ethiopia, which has been on the side of the Sudanese people during all times of difficulties, does not deserve such an attack from Sudanese army while it was busy of managing its own internal affairs. Ambassador Yibeltal in his briefing also mentioned that the recent unprecedented action of the Sudanese army will complicate the bilateral relations, including the pending task of the redemarcation of the common boundary, with huge implications to peoples of the two countries and the region at large, unless corrected urgently. He finally underscores Ethiopia's firm commitment to peacefully resolve the boundary issues between Ethiopia and Sudan on the basis of the bilateral agreements reached and the joint boundary mechanisms put in place to handle the matter. The ambassador further indicated Ethiopia's view on the way forward as follows. First, the recent intrusion by the Sudanese army needs to be reversed, and the pre-November 2020 status quo should be maintained as per the 1972 exchange of notes. Second, the Joint Special Committee needs to finalize the task of proposing an amicable solution as per the 1972 exchange of notes to the problems arising from settlement and cultivation north of Mount Daglish, which is a prerequisite for the redemarcation of the Gwin Line north of Mount Daglish. Third, the joint boundary mechanisms put in place for the redemarcation of the boundary need to be reactivated to discharge their mandates.
The 32nd Motorized Battalion, serving under the African Union Mission in Somalia, Sector 3, has received medals. Chief Commander of the 32nd Motorized Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Aberra Seye, and Deputy Commander of the 11th Mechanized Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel Desalegn Abata, presented the awards to the troops. Lieutenant Colonel Desalegn on the occasion expressed his pride over the successful achievement and completion of the mission. Lieutenant Colonel Aberra said peacekeepers should improve their good reputation in peacekeeping mission by efficiently fulfilling the mission given by the people and government of Ethiopia. Welcome back. The Ethiopian Broadcast Authority expressed readiness to allocate airtime to contesting political parties in the upcoming elections slated for mid-2021. The authority said live transmitted debate, which never took place in Ethiopia for over 10 years now, is a showcase of matured democracy. Take a look at the following report by Goshumalas.
Ethiopia is preparing to hold a general parliamentary and regional election camps early June this year. The role of media is crucial in during pre-polling and post-election periods of the event. Talking to ETV English, Ethiopian Broadcast Authority Director General Getachew Dunku said the authority will allocate airtime to the political parties.
We want the public to get authentic information. So live debates, definitely they help. It's also the experience of the mature democracies like the US. So I'm assuming that we may possibly have some live debates. In addition to that, Broadcast Authority together with the Electoral Board of Ethiopia, we will allocate free airtime.
The political parties will have free airtime on broadcast as well as print media so that they could propagate their ideas in political manifesto. The authority, he said, will use the lottery system to allot time.
We will allocate free airtime and newspaper spaces for the parties to get a chance to connect with the electorate, with the people to cast votes for them. Okay, so we make sure that the process is transparent. We'll be using a software which does not discriminate, which will be fair to every party member. So which party gets what time on which media outlet? Is it a prime time or the time right after the news or later? It's to be decided by lottery system.
The director did not hide the fact that the new draft media bill may not properly and sufficiently handle the mess on social media. He rather suggested public discussion should take place before elections.
Social media, it's a gray area. I mean, a new bill has come out. It works for all the platforms. It's a very complicated one, very much ethnicized, and then ethnic tensions are there. And then the messages coming out of social media, they tend to be more of group communication, intergroup communication, rather than very civilized, responsible kind of communication. You know, it's about this group or that group, and lots of generalizations. Yeah, I think part of the discussion should be prior to the election time.
Getachew also said his authority is closely working with Media Council and Ethiopian Broadcast Association on ways of reporting election professionally.
We have a close relationship. We work together. The regulatory model that we prefer to use is a co-regulation, which means institutional government regulation on the one hand, and then self-regulation on the other hand. And you could have more levels of regulation, like regulation at the media house level. Each media has its own editorial policy. And then also the professional individual journalist, you have your own standards in your mind. So in a way, you're constantly regulating yourself. Individual reporters, the media house, and then self-regulatory mechanisms like the Media Council, media associations, they're very important.
You're watching ETV News. Now moving on to a couple of international news items. Voting has been started in Uganda in fraught presidential and parliamentary elections with an internet blackout in place. Longtime President Yoweri Museveni is competing against opposition frontrunner Robbie Wine, a pop star turned opposition leader. security forces have killed more than 50 people in opposition rallies. 2/3 of the country's registered voters are under the age of 30 and many feel disconnected from politics. Kasaun Chane has more from Al Jazeera.